Welcome, everybody. This is the webinar Job Hunting for Executives. I'm Garrett Rice with Callings.ai, and I am pleased to have with me today Renata Bernarde. Renata is a career coach, former executive, and the host of the Job Hunting podcast, and she works with experienced professionals and leaders and executives who are navigating job searches, career transitions, and career advancement. Before becoming a career coach, Renata held senior leadership roles herself, including CEO, director, and national manager roles. So she brings both sides of the equation to her experience, and she understands what it feels like to lead at a senior level. She also understands how difficult it can be to reposition yourself when the market changes. Her work is especially focused on helping experienced professionals move beyond generic job search advice and understand how recruitment really works, how to help people position themselves, use their network strategically, and turn applications into conversations. So today, Renata will be speaking about how senior professionals can stop applying blindly and start using better context, clear positioning, and smart visibility to improve their chances of success. I'll show you a few things after Renata presents. Our background at Callings.ai is we make what we think is the most comprehensive and robust total job hunt platform on the market. Our goal is to help the candidate and give them the tools that they need to do what is an increasingly complicated workflow in the job hunt. So we are here for you as job seekers. And hopefully today, out of this webinar, you will learn ways to improve your job hunt and your candidacy. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Renata, and she can tell you how to job hunt if you're an executive.
All right. Thank you for that introduction, Garrett. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I think the numbers show that there is interest in more senior executive or expert content for job hunting, which I think is very different from applying for junior roles. So happy to go through it with you. This session was really designed for professionals who are doing everything right in their job search, like attending this webinar, applying for roles that you're qualified for, tailoring your application, and you're still not seeing returns and not seeing that conversion from application to interviews or even interviews to job offers. That's why you're here, I'm assuming. So you may be in this period of uncertainty, maybe after redundancy, layoff, a contract ending, or you're foreseeing a restructure coming up. Maybe you're still employed, but you can sense it's time to move. Either way, you're not looking for generic networking advice or motivational talk. I'm very practical with my approach. I value your time. If you're here, I want to make the most out of it. And I want you to leave with, really practical content that will help you compete in this crowded job market by applying with better context, having a clear positioning and real intelligence about what employers that you're seeking are actually selecting for, so that your application stops disappearing in this void and start converting into conversations and interviews. I assume that if you registered for this session, chances are you've been doing what responsible, capable professionals do. You're making sure that your applications are fit for purpose. But, sometimes it's those little tweaks that you're doing the 80% and it's the 20% that actually get you employed. So hopefully today I'll be able to share with you some of that. If that resonated with you, give me a yes on the chat, just so that I know that I'm talking to the right crowd, or if there's something here that, you feel like I haven't discussed yet, but you want to make sure that I do ask a question. The best way, lots of yeses, so that's great. The best way to ask a question is to say question in the beginning, so we know it's not just a comment, and then we can sort of follow up with you. We are going to talk about the roles that aren't advertised. Garrett and I have discussed this before. If you're a senior, if you're an expert, you know this, that you know that many roles that you might be interested in are decided outside of job boards. But I'm assuming that if you're here, you need a job stat. And roles like that are not advertised, they can take a while longer to convert. I'm going to talk about some client examples to give you an understanding of, the time frame that it takes for people that really want you on board and want to engage you for a role. They may take forever, and you don't have forever. It's not to say that they're not interested in you. They may not have the right budget for you, or they may not be the decision makers in bringing you on board. If you have experienced that, you're not alone. Please give me another yes in the box, so that we know that we're talking to people that have experience, that are waiting forever for your champions to sort of get back to you with opportunities. There you go. So, quick intro. I coach experienced professionals. Really funny. Sometimes experienced professionals come to me and say, "Can you help my 23-year-old daughter?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. I actually don't know how anymore. I used to be in graduate recruitment over 15 years ago, but it's very different coaching experienced professionals. And that's my expertise. Working with professionals that either want a permanent role or a portfolio career at executive level. Some of them are looking for board appointments. And I'm very practical about the work that I do. One of the things that came up yesterday in the Lean In was like, oh, I've never met a coach that just do job hunting. Well, it's not just job hunting, it's what I think appeals to my audience. But what I actually do is career planning and design. People in their 40s and 50s, and sometimes I have clients in their 60s as well. I just help the grandmother get a job. It's just so exciting for me. You have, a decade and a half, 2 decades, maybe, to sort of work out what you want to achieve in your career, make sure that you achieve your main goals. And you don't have all the time in the world anymore. You're halfway through, and you want to bookend that career with control. And as somebody who has experienced in my family and in my sort of personal network, older professionals losing control of their careers in the later stages, I find it really disheartening and really sad, and I don't want any of my clients to go through that. So I educate my clients in career planning and design, and making sure that they're working towards that long-term goal, as well as helping them with their job search. There are videos on the podcast videos on my YouTube channel that talk specifically about executive roles that are not advertised. And I'm going to let you know about that in a minute. And the other tip I want to give you is on my podcast, the Job Hunting Podcast. If you go scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's a search box there. So if you're interested in entering executive roles or board roles or portfolio career, you can type those keywords there and just search for the episodes, because there's like 340 episodes. So you can search for the episodes with the topics that you are interested in. So those resources are free. They're there to support you and to teach you, about me and the work that I do as well. Cool. Let's move on. Make sure that you ask questions. I can already see some questions there, and I want to make sure we have enough time for them. Unlike some webinars that, never have time for questions. I know Garrett is always good at allocating time for them. Let's talk about the application ecosystem. That's a word that I use a lot when I'm working with clients. And what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that I want you to still apply online. You will just stop doing it in isolation when you understand that your application goes into this ecosystem. It's how to convert advertised job applications into interviews by optimizing everything around your application even before you send it out. right? Understanding that hiring decisions, they start way before the job gets advertised online, right? And applications that convert, they are very well informed. They are written correlating the application to that job ad by the intelligence that you gathered before you sent it out. Your network becomes the research tool, not just a job pipeline. In fact, very rarely your network will come to you with jobs, but they will very happily advise you on your applications. If you have experienced that, give me a yes. I think one of the biggest surprises of people that are laid off is like, oh, I thought my network would help me find a job. No, they usually don't. The jobs aren't there waiting for you, but they will want to advise you. Ask for advice and you get help. Ask for help and you get nothing. Just remember that. That's really important. Your network is a research tool. Callings.ai has evolved in recent months this year to become an amazing tool as well. We're going to talk about that later. So this is the most important message today. It's this ecosystem idea and the fact that there are lots of things that you need to do besides looking for jobs in the job market and applying online. In fact, I created this with the help of ChatGPT to showcase that the job ad is the tip of the iceberg. And I want you to remember a time when a vacancy happened when you were working, right? I have a client I saw yesterday. He booked a 1 hour consultation with me. He's not a client on a retainer because somebody else told him to. He's overseas. He's in the UK. I'm in Australia, but that doesn't matter because he found out that there is a job that's going to be advertised inside his organization, and he wanted my help to approach his boss about applying, and make sure that he has a great application ready as well. So you probably know this. This job, by the way, that my client contacted me about is going to be advertised externally. But even before it's advertised, this internal candidate is already getting ready, right? And you probably have experienced this in your career where you found out a job was advertised and you called a friend to let them know. Somebody tapped you on the shoulder and say, why don't you apply and get some mobility in your career, get promoted. So those things are important. There is this marathon metaphor that I use with my clients, that when a job is advertised, the marathon has already started. And it's halfway over because before the ad is up, employers are already clarifying the real problem they need to solve. And when those discussions are happening, they're talking about individuals that could potentially come in and do that job. When they're thinking about an ideal candidate, it really usually materializes into a real person for them. They have worked with that person before. They want that person back working in their teams. They tested the role internally to see if there is maybe a potential internal candidate that could, they could compare and contrast with somebody externally. They ask for referrals when they are meeting people in the market. They say, I'm going to advertise a role. Do you have anybody that you think could be a good match for it? Those are sort of conversations that happen all the time. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And that usually shapes the shortlist criteria. So you can still enter halfway through. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but only if you catch up quickly with the context, right? So this is really important. You will be more a great candidate that comes cold, but it's important that your application really does shine. So that's the message here. Now, the reality check. Most applicants apply with limited context. So many people come to me and say, I sent my application, and then if they come back to me and say, I will be in the shortlist, then I'll reach out to my friend that works in that company. Why would you do that? You have to contact their friend before you send out the application. That fear of, the vulnerability of being in that situation. I think, there's ego, there's vulnerability. You don't want people to know. That is all not helping your situation. The more information you have, the better your application will be and the better it will convert to the next stage, right? So this is really important. If applying online isn't working, it's not converting to a first conversation, it's not necessarily your capability. It's probably not your capability. It's most likely the process, right? Coffee. So the marathon metaphor, let's go back to it. When a job is advertised, the marathon is already halfway over. Before the ad is up, employers are clarifying the problem, testing the role, asking for referrals. They shaped the short list. I'm going to give you an example here. This job gets advertised, and you see it, right? A client of mine saw a job advertised in an organization that she had already applied for a similar job in the past in a different department. So what did she do? She called people that she had already interacted with. That application process stalled. They didn't hire anybody in the end. So they had a conversation with her. It stalled. And she said, look, there's another job very similar. Do you think it will hurt my chances with this job that I have already applied for? What do you think I should do? I don't want to, I am still interested in the job. I haven't heard back. And they said, no, 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 you apply. You apply. I will let them know that you are applying, right? Because this job has stalled. They're not moving forward. They're not making any decisions, and you're a good candidate. And that helped her get the other job, which she got the other job, that was a client of mine. So I want you to understand that those sort of, if she hadn't done that, who knows if she would have been selected. But because she did, her application moved up. And here's the misconception that I want to fix as well. Many people come to me and say, oh, I only have ever got jobs through networking. Applying never worked for me. Never worked for me. It was always networking. Some people say to me, oh, I cannot network. If you ask me to network, I won't do it. I can only apply online. I'm an introvert. I'm shy. That's linear thinking. That's not the ecosystem mentality that I'm trying to, make most of my clients adopt. The ecosystem thinking is what's going to make your application really strong. It's about doing both at the right time for the right reason, right? So the combination of those two things. When I say right time and right reason is, you want to contact people before you send out your application, not afterwards, because then, you have more contacts and your application is better. So understanding the flow, the workflow of how recruitment works. I have an entire module on workflow of how recruitment works inside my coaching program. This is just like a 2-minute spiel, but this may help you already sort of understand and educate yourself on the importance of really reflecting on this, because what I teach in my coaching program is not rocket science. Once I say things, people think, oh, that makes sense. So I want you to sort of start reflecting and get to your own conclusions. Okay, what is the ecosystem? Peoples and signals around a role that influence a selection. So you have the internal stakeholders, you have you can reach out to people that work in an organization. Many times you don't know people that work in organizations, but then you have external proximity. They may be clients of that organization or suppliers or members. I once applied for a CEO role of an industry peak body, and I didn't know anybody there. I was the final two. There were two people, and they chose the other candidate. Doesn't matter. It turned out okay for me. I got another great job. But the fact that I went all the way to final two means I sent out a very good application, and all I had was one member, a friend of mine who was an industry member, and he sort of kept feeding me information of what was going on internally, what the problem was that they were trying to solve, gave me a whole sort of big background and the knowledge of what the issue was with the loss of members. They were losing a lot of members, and I thought that that was really important for my success in that application. Recruiters and former employers. I'm working with a client now, and I've figured out what the problem is. He didn't keep in touch with any of his former bosses and colleagues. Over time, he changed jobs a lot, he changed countries, and that has been the issue for his job search now, is the fact that he has no industry connections where he lives, which is fairly a new place for him, and even externally if he was looking for a remote role, for example. So that is really important. And also knowing the strategy of the organization. One of the things that I make sure my clients do when they start working with me is you have to read the news every single day, and not just the news about what's going on in Nepal, like we were talking about before, but industry specific news about your sector. What's happening in your sector, the funding, the employment, the AI disruptions, the restructures and layoffs, mergers and acquisitions. That information is vital part of job searching. It needs to happen first thing in the morning. You need to, read the news, read the papers, listen to podcasts, and then you go job searching. One thing that happened with a client of mine who worked in the not-for-profit sector is that we did all the practice for her job search, for her sort of for job interview that she was going to. It was a really important one for her. She walks in, and the first question as they were chit-chatting and getting ready was like, did you see what happened yesterday, with the government new policies and the recommendations around her area of expertise? And she hadn't looked. And that really just it broke her confidence right there and then, because as a leader in that area of expertise, she should have read the recommendations for government for changes in policy in that specific area of the not-for-profit sector. So it's something that you have to sort of be aware of and be mindful. How are we going for time? Gary, keep me honest here if we're sort of, running late. Two types of advantage you can
So
create.
far, we're good.
We're good?
25
Okay,
minutes
good.
in. You're doing great.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Now, this is something that Garrett and I discussed earlier this week, the early signal. The advantage, the first advantage of thinking like that, of thinking in an ecosystem mentality for your job search, is getting the early signals, right? What I was saying before about the jobs that are not advertised, and so many jobs aren't advertised. I have a whole video on YouTube just about that. Please watch my videos on YouTube. I've just started doing videos on YouTube that are designed for that native audience. They're not, all my podcasts are there, but these are, sharper videos, and they're all designed for very senior executives looking for work. So if that's you, please watch. I'll have a link to that in the final slide. But those early signals are important because usually those searches are long. If somebody is looking to replace a senior role in a company, and that role is not going to be advertised because that would disrupt the share market. It will, what would happen if the shareholders knew that there is a problem with that CEO, or if the CEO is going to leave, or all of those things are important. Other reasons why a job isn't advertised is, to avoid competition, the competition knowing it. Many times even jobs that are advertised are very unclear. You don't know which company is advertising until you sign an NDA. So knowing those early signals for jobs that are not advertised is really important. How do you know early signals? People reach out to you. You have an optimized LinkedIn profile so that Heidrick and Struggles will reach out to you. Egon Zehnder will reach out to you. Korn Ferry. These are organizations that never advertise opportunities. If they don't reach out to you, it will be very hard for you to find an opportunity to talk to them, right? So they are very cocooned. Everything is behind the wall, and if you have an introduction to them through a mentor, through a champion, yes, they will talk to you. If they find you in their CRMs or on LinkedIn, then great. So if your LinkedIn is not optimized, they will never find you. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody who could very well be looking for roles like that. He's in finance, and I said, your LinkedIn is horrible. You've been working for years. You haven't even updated that information. And the keywords that need to be there. All of that's the sort of work that I do, but you can sort of figure out as well that that's how people find you. And you may have already received emails and messages from recruiters like that, or recruiters that are not so good. There are lots of dodgy messages as well, so be aware of those. But it's important to make sure that you are using the ecosystem, even if you have a great job, so that you can get those early signals. What you want is to be like me, 9 p.m. at night, finishing whatever I was finishing, getting a call from a friend of mine and said, I have to tell you, there's a perfect job for you. I just told the board that you would be perfect for it and you have to apply. And that was my CEO role that I got. I was perfectly happy in my previous job. I loved it. But I couldn't say no. 6 months later, I was starting as the CEO of this not-for-profit foundation. So had I not received that call and had that champion help me, I probably wouldn't even see the job up. I wouldn't even see it. I don't think it would have been advertised, and I wouldn't have known. Okay. So the other advantage, okay, Renata, too late. I am unemployed now. I need a job very soon. Then using this ecosystem mentality helps you with acquire fast intelligence, fast information, so you can send out the best possible code application out there. Right? So this is really important, and it will help you either way. How do you use this ecosystem to your advantage? First of all, decoding the ad. Yes, you can use Callings.ai. You can use AI in general to do your application, but frankly, I think you also need to read it thoroughly. Print it out. Do it old. If you're old like me, I'm a Gen X. It's important for us to sort of use the sort of our brain the way it was formed. It was formed to read things with a highlighter, and that is how you're going to really assess if this job is really for you. Sometimes I work with people that are lured by the job title and then they don't really pay attention to the job description. And when they're talking to me, they realize they actually don't have half of the expertise needed to do that. So you need to really decode it. Then look at signal words, culture, pace, risk appetite that will help you, identify if this is the right employer for you. Look at, the hidden constraints of the job. Does this leadership position requires huge transformation? What scale is it? I've only managed up to 50 people. This one requires me to manage 300. Can I cope with that scale? Can I demonstrate that I'm ready for it? Is this a fixer-upper, or is this a business as usual leadership opportunity? All of these things need to be reflected upon. And then think about what would make the people that are the deciders, the decision makers, say this person will be the safest person for us to hire. This person will be the one that we trust the most for this opportunity, because decision making at that level is usually quite conservative. They want somebody that has proven experience, trust, and likability. Sometimes people walk out of interviews and say, oh, they really liked me. And that's great, but they also need to trust you can do the job. And that's more important. That's how we vote. We may like somebody, but we usually vote the people that we trust more. So even if we don't like them, right? So that usually is how we make decisions that are really important to us. Move. So the second move, map proximity. Okay, I want to apply for this role. Let's talk, or even I don't know yet, but I need to assess further. Look at current and former employees, maybe somebody that mutual connections, alumni, especially in the US, if it's an alumni of an Ivy League program or a university that has a very strong alumni. I have somebody who worked with me who went to Duke, and then this other person in the US wants to move to Australia. She is at Duke at the moment. And I'm like, you know what? Talk to my friend Judith. She will help you. And I know that Duke has that sort of alumni. So if you have, and they've been, talking a lot and helping each other. Um, Look at speeches, annual reports. Has the senior leadership done podcast interviews or any sort of interviews? Look for strategy updates, all of that, and then pick up all of that information within approximately 24 hours and make a stronger case for applying. Then move three is this intelligence gathering that will help you with your job application, right? So using all of that information to make sure that you do that fit between what you want to show them that really matches the problem that they need to solve. And then move forward, translate it into that proof, and review that thoroughly and activate the right visibility, showcasing that not only you can do the role, but make sure that your connections are ready to support you. If you have somebody that will be your referee, now is the time to talk to them. I want to apply for this role. Can you be my referee? Look, I'm sending you the job application. Keep that in your records. If you have time to review it, that would be great. Or somebody that inside the organization. Guess what? I decided to apply. I'll send you the application. If you have time to review it, great. Otherwise, I'll send it in a couple of days. Those sort of things that you can do can be really helpful. In fact, because I know you're going to get this transcript, this slide deck, I here have some message scripts for you. I have found that people are really unsure about how to write these things, and they sometimes waffle and give information that makes it very complicated for the person to really understand what they're trying to do. So I've written some scripts here for you that you can just copy paste and update and use. Okay, and I think that this is important. Keeping your network warm, nurture them, keep them involved. People like to be involved. They like to give advice as well and mentorship. Most people do. It's very rare that people don't want to help out like that. So trust your instincts as well as to when to send it out, and when maybe to pull back. Sometimes overdoing it can be too much. People have, of course, a full life and other things that they need to do as well, other priorities. When you have zero network, what do you do? Well, Callings.ai is great because Garrett will explain this better. So I'm just going to leave this as a placeholder for him to fill you in. Because you will need to be very good at cold introductions, very good at having scripts ready for you to introduce yourself when people don't know you. And make sure that introduction piques their interest, makes them curious to know more about you, to click on your LinkedIn profile, to open up the document you sent them, I'm assuming a resume, right? So this is really important. And remember to start creating that network from now on, even if you haven't done this in the past. Start approaching former employees, former function peers, people that you can from now on be in touch with. Now, the common mistakes, this is my final slide, and then I'll pass on to Garrett. The common mistakes, applying too quickly. 10 minutes, I know. You're not going to apply in 10 minutes, but applying without the intelligence. The speed feels so productive. I have worked with a client, she's now happily employed. I'm so happy. But she would come to me and say, "Oh, you'll be so proud of me. I sent like 50 applications this week." And I'm like, I was nice, but I wasn't proud of her because it's unlikely that those applications were good. It's too soon, too fast. And I know it feels productive, but it's not going to help at that senior level. Using one resume for every role, or sometimes, like yesterday, I had this consultation and somebody was very proud of some of their achievements, but the achievements didn't really match the requirements from the job ad that he sent me. And I'm like, there's no point in you putting that all of that amazing information in the first page, because sometimes it will even be it's counterintuitive, but they will think, oh, he's a CPA. Well, we're not looking for a CPA, so that's not our person. You know what I mean? So we need to find exactly how your career correlates with what they need. Asking context for jobs instead of context. I know it's hard, but it creates a discomfort, and they might start ghosting you. Not following up after applying, I think, is something we need to start doing, even if it's a pain, and I know it is, and the whole recruitment process needs to be changed and restructured. I agree. We don't have time for that, so we need to keep an eye on our applications and follow up for a while, and then let it go if you don't hear back. Treating job search as transactional. It should never be transactional, especially if you're working with recruiters, but also even with in-house talent acquisition professionals, because you never know. I have this amazing client, and she took really much longer than we both thought for her to get a job. And she sent me this amazing email after working with me for a few months, and I was because I liked her so much. And she said, I applied for a job with this company, and they didn't hire me. Then they reached out to me and say, apply for this other job because we want to see you for this other opportunity. So she said, okay, let's do that. They didn't hire her for that second opportunity. And guess what? They created a job for her. I have never been so proud, of somebody who nurtured those relationships like I taught her to do, and made sure that she was still top of mind for opportunity. So they created a job for her. So that is an amazing, good story. So here it is, how to reach out to me. Like I said, I have, I think, 5 videos now that I've done especially for YouTube. The podcast is also there if you want to see my face as you're listening to it. Podcast is everywhere, Spotify and whatnot. Reach out to me if you need my help. You can book a discovery meeting with me. If you are interested in private coaching on a retainer, me working alongside you as you're looking for a job. But I also have a limited number of 1-hour consultations that you can book and just prep for an interview or review an application with me, and talk about your issues and get my advice. So that's how people work with me, and I'd be happy to work with you too. Over to you, Garrett.
Fantastic, Renata. Thank you so much. By the way, for the folks who are watching, we intend, if Zoom cooperates, to send a replay of this entire webinar so that you'll have the ability to review that. And I will try to remember to include all the links and information that Renata shares here as part of the email that goes out to you with the details. So, So you can look forward to that in your inbox over the next couple days. And I'll also give you an opportunity to, if you have not tried Callings, you can get our premium service for a free month so that you can try it out at no risk. And the URL for that is callings.ai/Renata. So that will be available to you. If you've already registered, it won't work. But if you've not registered yet and are a new registrant and you use that URL, which is callings.ai/Renata, then you'll automatically and somewhat invisibly get provision for 30 days. And I'll put my email in here. So if for some reason that doesn't work, we're not stingy. We want you to try it out. Um, so you can email me and I'll make certain that you get your 30 days. So what Renata did is walk through, I think, some of the most important precepts that you're going to need as you go and look for these senior jobs. And that's her area of expertise. Where we come in as Callings.ai is to provide the tool sets and workflows to help you accomplish these in the most accelerated fashion possible. And so, what I want to do is show you a few examples of some of the things that she mentioned that you can do on Callings to help manage the workflow. Because, as I've talked about, and some of you have heard me say, the average job seeker needs to apply to about 50 roles to be successful. And whether you get by with half of that, that's still a lot of workflow to manage. And so that's really what Callings is all about. And we've built this around the idea that you should have your own strategy for job hunting, but regardless of what you do, there's tools available for you to do it. And so let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to replace the current share and I'm going to show you Callings. And hopefully you guys can see that. Is that coming through okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Excellent. So Callings.ai is a comprehensive platform. We use a lot of AI, but it's also a lot of standard technologies for organizing and managing things. And our goal is to support candidates because our feeling is out in the marketplace, most of the tools are built around recruiters and the hiring process. And there's three main buckets of things that we help you with. The first thing, and Renata talked about it in her presentation, is you've got to tell your story and articulate your personal value to be a successful job seeker. For you to land these executive roles, you really need to your story to resonate with the people that are hiring you. And so the entire first section of our platform, which is called Personal Brand, if you see this over here, are all tools around helping you do that. And so, the first thing is when you upload your resume on our platform, we we uh, we create an ATS friendly version of your resume so that you can get through these screening systems that HR systems, or HR groups inside of companies use. We do a full assessment for you so we can help you. We give you a 6-second test, call out strengths and weaknesses, tell you what we think it says about you, provide a scorecard on the 6 main things that resumes are evaluated on these days. We do peer benchmarking against similar resumes. And then we provide an AI system where you can select the things you want to improve. And when you do that, you can launch our AI resume tool and basically answer questions and work with our AI to improve your resume. This is also a word processor, so you can put things in your own words. We are not the type of AI company that says we'll rewrite everything for you with AI because we really want you to stay authentic to you. The second thing we do with your personal brand is we build a whole series of very valuable reports about you. So when you register and work with Callings, you upload your resume or your LinkedIn profile or both. By the way, that information that you share with us is confidential. We don't sell it, we don't share it, we don't train models on it. We only use it in service of you. And what we do is we generate a series of personal reports about you that help you understand yourself and how to articulate your brand and your value as you go through a job search process. You'll notice at the top here, we have a goals questionnaire. If you take the time to answer those questions, which are multiple choice questions built off of your resume, we know even more about you. And then the remaining, the following reports are more valuable. A goals report that helps call out the things that scream most important to you from the information you provided us. So, for example, in this particular demo account, David, his most important two things are the role and his compensation. But for you, it might be career growth, responsibilities, the location, or something else. And so the first thing is really to help you with your priorities and make certain that you are aligned properly. By the way, if the report doesn't come back and you feel that it's wrong, it probably means that your resume is expressing things that are different than your internal feelings about what you want. And so you should keep that in mind because we're building these reports off of your information. We provide a full market fit report. So we analyze you and your career against the markets that you've been in using a report like this. So, how the market has valued you so far, what's worked, moving forward, where you align with demand in the marketplace. So, this is a detailed report about you against the market, pulling data against virtually all of the main hiring and work markets that we can find most, in the United States and Europe. We then call out here on the left-hand side those target sectors that we know are hiring people exactly like you, and we know are hiring. Some industries are not hiring. Some verticals are not hiring, and so it makes less sense to apply to those. And so this is really about understanding yourself in the marketplace. And we'll even call out companies that we know are hiring, and if you like them, you can click this Save Target Company, and you'll notice that it zips over into this Target Company section here in the product. I'll come back to that, but basically, we can help you target companies where maybe there's not a role published. So that's the quote unquote hidden job market. Um, so this is you against the market. We write an ideal job description for you. And this helps. Many of our users have said, "This is great. I wish this job was posted because we get pretty close to what the ideal job would be for you." And this we use for several things. First, it's helpful to be able to articulate what your perfect job is, and so we help you do that here. The second thing is we use this information to search against 14 million jobs to find jobs that are a qualified match for you. And so I'll show you that in a little bit, but very helpful for you to envision yourself in your future role. We then help call out all the brand elements of you that help articulate you as a really valuable and unique person. So we generate a 20-second elevator pitch, a 2-minute longer pitch, a professional summary. We'll call out professional headlines to articulate you in a short, concise way. We identify 10 things that make you unique in your career and in your background. We call out top 10 skills that you have on your resume and in your background. And then we identify 10 achievements that you've done that are really important. And this is very helpful, for example, when you're in an interview and you need to use that STAR method to call out the things you've done that make you the perfect fit. These are oftentimes the things to do. Our job seekers on the platform have told us that they print this out. They use this as a cheat sheet to train themselves to talk about themselves. It's not that you don't know this about yourself, it's that you're not maybe fully in practice of selling yourself like a product. And so these are your brand elements on how to articulate your candidacy and why you're the perfect fit for those roles. We even do a job market report, so you can pick the area that you're in, and we'll do a fully detailed report for you in your vertical on what the job market looks like in the areas that you're looking. So that's all part of the My Insights section, and it's about you understanding you better so that you can get out there and sell that amazing aspect about yourself. Um, By the way, we can help you promote that even more by building a calling card, which is a personal landing page. The average viewing time for a resume is 5 to 7 seconds. So people can't really grok much about you in that time. So what we've done is help build for you a landing page where at a glance people can see your value proposition. And we've had people post this on LinkedIn and get thousands of reactions and many, many comments and reposts. And this is all part of the game on social media sites like LinkedIn, where your thought leadership and expertise is invisible unless you're part of their algorithm. And so that's built in and that's part of your personal brand. So we help you advertise yourself. And then we can even help you build thought leadership by helping you identify the themes of what you want to talk about as an expert, and then help you to generate authentic posts that you can put out into social media. So this is all about taking you, understanding your brand, and getting it out there. And that's under personal brand. Um, the thing I'm gonna spend the most time on is networking, but we also help you identify opportunities. So we have a job tracking system, so you don't need to build a spreadsheet to track your job hunt. We're job agnostic, so we have a plugin. If you find jobs on LinkedIn or Indeed or anywhere else, you can add them into this tracker and track them all here. For each of these jobs, we provide you a powerful set of tools to evaluate the job, to get a match against you against the job, what the company is all about, what their Glassdoor rating is, what the latest news is. We generate custom resumes and cover letters for each of the jobs in your tracker that you're pursuing so that you can apply. And these are all fully editable with AI and custom editing that you can do yourself so that you can actually get the authentic and perfect resume and cover letter for every single job you apply to. For each job, and this is important, and I'm going to follow up more on this, for each job that you apply to in your tracker, we provide a targeted networking tool where I try to identify between 3 to 7 to 9 people for each job that are connected at that company and at those roles in that company. So we're looking for the hiring manager, people on the team, the recruiters, and we're pretty good at finding those exact people. So this is, for example, the hiring manager at Big Hat Biosciences. And so we tell you who they are. We give you the full pull on their background, where they used to work, what their interests are, and then we'll even provide draft reach out messaging for you so you can reach out to them. And then you have the choice of reaching out to them using this on LinkedIn, which we'll connect you with, or in many cases, we will actually find the email address for this person. So here's the email address for this person, and then draft the outreach message in your inbox so you can send them a direct message. And so this is all about you doing networking for every job. And the goal here is for you to be able to reach out to a number of people for every role that you apply to connect with and talk with, because that makes you a real person instead of just another resume in a pile. And of course, for you senior people, it's much more important. They're just not going to hire somebody that they don't get to know because the risk is too high for them. So this is targeted networking. We also provide detailed interview reporting, including if you enter in the LinkedIn profile URLs for the people that you know that you're going to interview with, we will customize the reports for those people so that you know what to expect when they're coming in. And these reports, a pep talk, pitfalls, strategies for the interview, and we'll even call out what the interviewers are likely to focus on, the types of questions they ask, questions you can ask, etc. So a very detailed report to prepare you for the interviews, and then you can add your own notes, which are always attached. This is always free on the platform. So what you're tracking on our platform was always free. And so that you never lose your job hunt, even if you don't use our premium features. I mentioned targeted companies. We have a whole set of tools for that. So if, for example, you want to target Amgen, we will evaluate you against the company, provide a full report on that, give you a fit score, call out what we think would be the perfect job for you at that company, and then also find contacts at the company for you to reach out to network with. If you have jobs from this company in the tracker, we'll call that out. So that's indexed against the company. And then we'll even find open job listings for, in this case, Amgen, so that you can shop by company. And this is all about the hidden job market, reaching out to companies and people in companies. The final thing we offer is really powerful networking tools. So we have a contact tracker. So everybody that you're connected with, that you're reaching out to in our system, we add into the contact tracker as a CRM. So you're always connected with the people that you've been reaching out to and know how to get a hold of them. You can add more people by hitting the add contact button and just enter their LinkedIn URL, or you can search for somebody using our AI search function. And for example, you can type in executives at Apple, my former company, and we will go and find them. And so we feel that we've got a more advanced semantic search system, so we can index and find the people and connect you with them. And so for all of these, you can save these as contacts. I used to work in Phil Schiller's organization, so I'll save him. And the whole goal here is to find people for you to talk to, because networking is a simple way to describe it is it's human beings talking to human beings. And that's how you get hired. So you can use this as a powerful way to connect with people. We also, and she mentioned recruiters, we have an entire recruiting tool in the platform as well. We will look at your background and we will find matching recruiters that recruit in your industries and people with your background. And that gives you an entire shopping list of people to reach out to and to express your value to, so that they will keep you in mind when they're looking. We can connect you with associations in your area as well, events that are being posted for areas of interest that you might have. And this is all about connecting you with people that are birds of a feather with you. And so those are the main three buckets on the platform. We of course do these webinars. They're always recorded, so you can come back and review those. We do a weekly calling circle, which is a live community and networking event with job seekers. In fact, some of the people on this call, like Bill Laser, show up every week, and we share best practices. We talk through challenges in the job hunt, and you're always welcome. So there's that and much, much more. The goal here is to get you the tools so that you can actually take the actions easily that make you successful. And so I encourage you to take the feedback and lessons that Renata has expressed today, and to go take these tools and take action. That's the most important thing in the job hunt, is to put yourself out there. And so hopefully Callings will help you do that, and that you can follow her guidance and go get your next job. And so, with 2 minutes left, we can stay a little bit after. I will stop talking and we'll turn it over to questions and answers. And so I'll go now and look at the chat and see if there's questions that people are asking.
Garrett, I went through the chat and I've been
Hmm.
looking at questions.
Oh,
Yes,
great.
I've actually answered them. We only had two or three questions, so not many. If people want to ask more questions, we can give it another 5 minutes if you keen to stick around.
Okay.
One question that we had was that I mentioned asking for advice rather than help, and asking for concrete examples that I can provide of how to do that successfully. I think this is really interesting because those conversations can sometimes feel very awkward for the job seeker. And also, there is the vulnerability of asking for help. And I understand that it can be really hard. And also the vulnerability of maybe hearing things you don't want to hear. All of that can be complicated. I say go straight to the jugular and just go for it and don't be afraid. One thing that I've learned from headhunters that I needed to do, that I have done in my career, is whenever I'm left a job after I was already out, going back to my manager and say, if people were talking about me and I wasn't in the room, what would they be saying? Oh, Renata, don't worry about that. I'll be your referee. You're okay. I'm like, no, 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 no. I need to know the good and the bad. right? It's important for your professional development, for your learning to understand what rubbed people the wrong way, what you did that was really great that they will remember, right? All of these things are important, and those patterns start showing in your career that you then understand that they are your talents. Sometimes we normalize the things that we're good at and we don't see them as different from other people. Oh, I thought everybody could do that. Turns out I'm actually better than most doing this thing. So learn from feedback like that, and it's better done after you leave. When you leave, feedback can be very political, and performance management can sort of cloud the real feedback. Well, after you left, your peers, your colleagues, your managers can really give you proper feedback. And the other thing that you can do is seek out people that have done this just before you. Sometimes when I'm looking at jobs with clients and we understand who the manager is, and this is a real case. The manager had been in the same organization for 25 years. She started as a graduate. Now she's like a very senior exec. She has no clue what job seeking is. So you shouldn't, the way you present yourself in that job interview is different from presenting yourself in a job interview with people that have changed jobs 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So seek out advice from people that have done this before you. You changed jobs 2 years ago. How did you do it? What would you do if you were in my place today? Because sometimes you do things and you regret it. So you don't have any person to give that advice to, because nobody's in your shoes unless you reach out to a person and say, what would you have done differently? Or what did you do that really helped you? Because now I'm in that situation, or I want to be in that situation. So I'm seeking your advice. So that's just asking things like that can be really, really helpful in positioning you for your job interviews.
That's great.
Mm.
Renata, Greg Furman asks, for follow-ups for applications that you make, how do we balance the need to do that with no reply emails and site applications where they're very impersonal?
How do we balance this with no reply emails or site applications?
In
I'd
other words,
like to
if
do it.
there's no entry point on the
Yeah.
application side, how do you network? I
Yeah.
think is what he's asking.
Yeah, well, it's research, right? It's network is part of the arsenal that you have, the repertoire, the tool. Like you have like lots of tools in your bag, and networking is one of them. If you have no other information about the role, try to use search engines or AI to find out as much as you can about the company. Read about them in the news. Try to find out if they're in financial distress or if they're doing really well. Are they going through a growth phase? Are they, going through a big restructure and they need new people to come in and support in specific areas? You need to know what problem they're trying to solve, right? And even if you don't have anybody that works at, let's say, Coca-Cola, but you have a friend that works at Pepsi, go and talk to your friend that works at Pepsi. You know what I mean? Try to find at least sector or industry specific information that can help you. If you're at that level, and this is done for senior executives and mature professionals, you've been working for so long. I am hoping that you will find, even if it's your next door neighbor, you will have somebody in your network that you can talk to. And it's really funny. Sometimes it's somebody you will not expect. Is being open to talking about your applications with others. You will be surprised at how much they can support you and help you. Hmm.
That's great. Well, we're 4 minutes over, and I don't see any pressing questions. Let's see.
I
So
answered all
maybe
the others. Yeah.
maybe now's a good time to thank everybody, and uh, I'm sure that you will see Renata working with us again in a future webinar, but don't hesitate to reach out to either of us if you have questions, and look for the follow-up email with some of the details that we talked about today. And Renata, thank you so much for joining
No
us,
problem. My
and
pleasure.
that was fantastic.
Awesome. I'll see you all soon. Thank you for being here.